What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to the Sports Talk on Tap podcast. We're here. You can find daily videos covering mainly the NFL, but we'll also sprinkle in the NBA as the season is quickly approaching. Same with NHL and MLB. When the postseason comes around, we'll do some playoff predictions. But mainly, this is an NFL channel. That's just what I love watching the most. And believe it or not, and if you love watching the NFL, make sure to like and subscribe as well, as we're going to be here providing content all throughout the year. And now especially because football season's officially back. We had a great week 1, and week 2 is officially kicking off tonight, Thursday night football, in what should be a great game. So we have Al Michaels and Kurt Hebstein, pronouncing his name wrong, but you all know who I'm talking about. A great college football commentator. They are back on the call for Amazon Prime Game Day, but in what should be an exciting matchup between the Washington Commanders and the Green Bay Packers, who both started off 1-0, got dubs, and we're going to do a quick preview on that game, and then we'll also dive into our AI model picks. How did they do last week, and what are they predicting for this week? And make sure to like and subscribe if you want to get more predictions from us. Last week I went 11-5. The AI model was able to go 12-4, but we'll dive into that in a little bit. Because with that being said, this should be a great one tonight, and I'm excited as a Vikings fan, just always watching the in division games like we saw last week between the Packers and Lions, and just seeing how they stack up, because the Packers, like I said, scare me, and this will be a good test. They are back at home against a team that made the NFC Championship game last year. In Jane Daniels, they added Debo Samuel, Laramie Tunsil. It wasn't, the most impressive win against Washington, but I knew it was going to be a scrappy division game against the New York Giants, and they took care of business. The offense did enough, especially in the run game with that rookie running back, Brissett or something. He was amazing. And Jane Daniels just did enough in the passing game. Debo Samuel had a nice rushing touchdown. But, it still wasn't the greatest. Pressured. And I think that'll be the key matchup in here is, will Jaden be able to use his legs in this Washington run game to get going against this elite Packers front seven that added Micah Parsons? He'll be playing some more reps. Rashawn Gary, they were getting after the quarterback, and they made Jared Goff very uncomfortable, held the Lions that were, number one in points scoring over the last 3 seasons to 6 points basically the whole game. They're going to be at home. That crowd is going to be rowdy. I'm curious also about the Washington Commanders defense versus this Packers offense. Obviously, Washington did its thing with Dan Quinn last week, holding the Giants to 6 points, keeping them out of the end zone when the Giants were moving the ball. They're able to get after Russell Wilson, just make him very uncomfortable. And for the Packers, they came out swinging early. The passing game was clicking. Jordan Love, in the second half didn't look as good. Made a couple shaky plays to Anzalone and had a pick 6 against Brian Branch that was called back due to a penalty. So, penalties are penalties, but it didn't look as smooth, but they relied on Josh Jacobs, and they were able to take care of the football at the end. So can this Green Bay rushing attack get going against this Washington front seven, and how will the receivers do? Will Matthew Golden continue to take another step? Jane Reed, Romeo Dobbs, will they be able to hit some big plays in this one? It's going to be a very interesting one. But like I said in my preview, I think the Packers just have too much talent. That Giants front seven was able to feast. I think Micah Parsons will be able to make some plays in this one. Same with Rashawn Gary lining up alongside him. And the Packers just got playmakers in the back end with, Xavier McKinney. I think they'll be able to do enough. I think still it's going to take Washington some time, just with Terry McLaurin missing all of training camp, and now it's a short week. I think the chemistry will get better as it goes along. Maybe Debo Samuel can make a couple plays in this one, but I just find it tough. I just think Green Bay, the way it looked in week 1 at home, I can't really see a way that they lose this one. I think if they were to lose it, it'd just be Jane Daniels in this running game overwhelms Green Bay, and Jordan Love makes 1 or 2, interceptions that, prove to be costly mistakes. And Washington can do that. The defense looked amazing, but, I'm still not sold on the defense. I think, the Giants just have a lot of holes on offense. So I think this will be a much greater test. But just at Lambeau, I like the Packers in this one. And speaking of that, our AI model likes it as well. So with that being said, we'll kind of go into predictions with our AI model, see what it says. Last week, like I said, it went 12-4, and mainly the games that it got wrong were the Packers Lions. It favored the Lions in that one. They thought the rushing attack would be able to overwhelm. It did not. Gibbs, Montgomery could not get anything going. They also took the Falcons versus Tampa. That was kind of a bad beat just because that game pretty much should have gone into overtime if it wasn't for a Younghoe Koo miss. But, it is what it is. I'll take that because I had Tampa Bay as well. And then the other two, it got wrong. Let me go back and look. It was, sorry about this, week one. Just got to go back to pool results. It also, let's see, week one, the AI model, because these are my picks. It also got the KC one. Like me, we both took KC. And then the last one, I believe, was Miami over in Indianapolis, which I also took as well. Can't really be too mad at that, the Chiefs, defending Super Bowl champions, I think they just didn't take into account the travel, maybe a little bit of a Super Bowl hangover, like myself. And then the Dolphins, we thought the offense would be much more prolific despite all the drama. And unfortunately, that is not the case. And it was not Daniel Jones shined, but I was very happy to see him shine. But with that being said, let's get into our AI model week 2 predictions. We are officially here. So just to recap, these are my picks. I have Green Bay over Washington, Baltimore over Cleveland, Cincinnati over Jacksonville, Dallas over New York, New England over Miami, Detroit over Chicago, San Fran over New Orleans, Buffalo over the Jets, Steelers in a close win over Seattle, Los Angeles over Tennessee, Denver over Indianapolis, which should be an intriguing one, Arizona over Carolina, Philly over Kansas City. Boy, that'll be a great one. Minnesota, my Vikings over the Falcons on Sunday Night Football. And then we have a back-to-back Monday night doubleheader where I have Tampa Bay over Houston and the Chargers over the Raiders. So with that being said, we'll get into what our AI model thinks and who will come out on top. So with that being said, Commanders over Packers, Thursday Night Football. They got the Packers winning this one 24-20. And overall, the confidence level at a 105 is a 3. They just believe. Green Bay at home. The offense, like I said, was more efficient in week one. Washington didn't look all that great. And I think part of it, at least on the passing attack was, just him and Terry, Jaden Terry not getting on the same page really. And just, some pressure, some holes on this offensive line. While Jaden can scramble and avoid stuff, Micah Parsons or Sean Gary, they're freaks of nature that might be able to chase him down and cause problems. So me and the AI model agree on this one. We are 1-for-1. Next up, we have Baltimore versus Cleveland, an AFC North matchup. And in this, also like the Ravens, they think, just the ground game with Baltimore versus Cleveland's front will be an interesting one because Myles Garrett was getting after Joe Burrow. But King Henry and Lamar, the way they can go in this one, I think it's going to be crazy. I think Derrick Henry, you saw what he did against the Bills last week. And I don't think he'll do that again because Cleveland's front seven with Myles Garrett can get after it. But Lamar will be able to avoid some of those sacks, unlike Joe Burrow. And Cleveland's offense, I don't think Joe Flacco, I don't think he'll be able to get much success going against an elite Baltimore secondary that I know didn't look elite last week, but I think they're due for a bounce back, especially at home. Next up, a very intriguing one. Cincinnati versus Jacksonville. I was tempted to take Jacksonville here because they looked really good in week one, and Cincinnati snuck one out. But that's expected. I think you kind of just take what you can get if you're the Bengals, honestly, no matter how ugly it looks. And our AI model is going with the Bengals in a close one. Just the QB edge at home. You got out Joe Shiesty. But I do think Brian Thomas Jr. will be able to get going. Travis Hunter may have more yards in this game because he did have a good amount of receptions, but just not a lot of yards. That offense was efficient. It will be under Liam Cohen, Travis Etienne on the ground game. Can he repeat his success of last week? It'll be interesting to see. This Bengals front seven, though, with guys like Shamar Stewart, the run game, was able to hold Cleveland's. I think the front seven can be promising, so that'll be an interesting matchup. But, I just think the QB edge will be enough to give Cincinnati a win at home. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins go off in this one. Next up, Dallas versus New York. Our AI model also likes Dallas. So far we are 4-for-4. Just the QB edge, the home opener. Dallas is going to be lit. They, I think are due for a bounce back. I think CeeDee Lamb won't drop 4 balls like he did last week. And our AI model also agrees with that. Dallas just has the talent edge. They're just more talented. And, with Russell Wilson, not sure if, this is his last start if he stinks it up again. There's just a lot of question marks. And while the Giants front seven may keep it interesting. Dallas's offensive line looked pretty good against the Eagles front seven. I know they didn't have Jalen Carter, but I think it could be decently close, but I like Dallas by a touchdown this one. Next up, Chicago versus Detroit. I took Detroit, and the AI model thinks this is also a Detroit win. They can get the ground game going back at home, and we have a Ben Johnson versus Dan Campbell rematch. And I know Dan Campbell doesn't want to lose this one, especially in front of his home fans, and the Lions don't want to start 0-2, but neither does Chicago. I mean, they had that game against the Vikings in their lap. They did end up blowing it, unfortunately, but Detroit's at home, and the heat is going to be on, and I will not want to hear, the Stephen A. Smiths of the world be talking if Detroit goes 0-2, because they will be getting flamed, especially at home. I think they have to have this one, and our AI model likes it too. I think Gibbs will be able to get going. We saw Jordan Mason able to run through the tackles, so maybe Montgomery will be able to bulldoze his way in this one. Next up, we have, let's see, Patriots versus the Miami Dolphins. I took the Patriots. I just, the way the Dolphins looked, I wasn't, very obviously the worst team last week. But our AI model, this is our first disagreement, likes the Dolphins. They say Miami at home, just the advantage they have with the heat, the speed. And I could see it. Jalen Wall, Tyreek Hill, Tua. Does Tua have another stinker? I think Mike McDaniel's going to call his best game plan because the heat is on Devon Achane. But for me, I just can't see it. I think, the toxicity is too much. I like the culture of New England, even though they didn't, play great last week. I think the defense played solid. Harold Landry was getting after it, and this offensive line for Miami isn't really that great. I think they'll try and run the ball more, Travion Henderson, and have Drake May thrive off the play action. But our AI model, well, it's not high confidence, only a 2 out of 5. Just the speed at home. They think it's a bounce back game for this offense, which I could see, and also the heat will play a factor. So Dolphins win this one in our first disagreement. Next up, San Fran versus New Orleans. I did predict San Fran, but then it officially is kind of doubtful. Brock Purdy will play. George Kittle's obviously on IR. And San Fran's just banged up already with weapons. And our AI model likes New Orleans. They flipped it once they heard, the report that Brock Purdy's doubtful. And for me, this is still tough because, San Fran still has Ricky Pearsall, Dwan Jennings, obviously Christian McCaffrey. But if Josh Johnson's starting, Mac Jones. I mean, how much faith? But maybe, with the Kyle Shanahan system, they'll be able to, figure out a way to score some points. Overall, the AM model likes New Orleans, just the flip at home, all the injuries. But for me, I'm still going to ride with San Fran in my picks. Obviously I'd have time to change it, but I'm riding San Francisco. The AI model, though, is like New Orleans. I just trust this Robert Saleh defense. I think Mac Jones won't look as bad as he has with the Patriots and Jags. He's got some weapons. I think they'll just try and run the ball. Kyle Shanahan will scheme up some open play action and maybe get more of like the rookie version of Mac Jones, hopefully. I think it'll be a close one, like 16-13, because New Orleans, their defense did look solid against Arizona. I'm expecting a low-scoring game, but give me San Fran and this Robert Saleh defense to clutch up. They also have a new special teams kicker, Eddie Pinheiro, after releasing Jake Moody, so maybe their special teams is better. And then with that being said, we have the Bills versus the Jets. RA model likes the Bills. I mean, just the way the Bills looked in that explosive offense they have versus, the Jets offense that was very consistent on the ground. We saw what they were able to do against the Steelers, elite front seven, and we saw what Derrick Henry was able to do against this Buffalo defense. So if Justin Fields can get some rushing yards, Breece Hall, he looked amazing week one, Braylon Allen, this could be an interesting game and closer than people think. But the Jets defense just really all isn't that great. And if they were playing like they were with Robert Saleh, I might take the Jets in this one, especially at home. But Buffalo, Josh Allen in the AI model, you can't bet against the best player in the world right now. So give me the Bills, and the AI model also likes the Bills. So with that being said, so far we have 2 disagreements with the Patriots, Dolphins, and Niners, Saints. Next up, we have Steelers versus Seahawks. I'm really intrigued to see this one. How does the Steelers defense look versus the Seahawks, play action scheme pass that could not really get anything going against San Fran. Our AI model likes the Steelers in this one, and so do I. The way Aaron Rodgers and this offense looked, I think they'll be able to score enough points, but Seattle's defense is also elite. But for me, It's just Seattle's offense laid an egg. I'm expecting them to bounce back, but I'm also expecting the Steelers defense to bounce back. And I think TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, Cam Hayward will be able to get after Sam Darnold just enough to make this, like a 23-20 win, which our AI model also predicts. Next up, the Rams versus the Titans. And in this one, LA's defense just has the edge versus Tennessee's offense. That's where AM Mile is calling. And that's also where I lean. Tough start to Cam Ward facing two of the best defenses in Denver last week on the road. At this one, he'll be at home, but his receivers gave him no help last week. I kind of find it tough that he'll be able to have, a really good game this week. So we both like the LA Rams in this one, and maybe that offense with Matthew Stafford, they continue to click and get better after missing all of training camp. Next up, we have the Panthers versus the Cardinals, and we both like the Arizona defense to rattle Bryce Young here. They're at home. Kyler Murray, Marvin Harrison, they'll just do enough on offense to be able to win this one. The Cardinals are my NFC West pick, so they got to take care of business at home. Just the way Carolina looked last week, the receivers didn't help Bryce Young out at all. Bryce Young will throw one or two mistakes. The Cardinals will be able to capitalize. I just trust them more at home, Kyler Murray, to be able to use his legs. And we saw how bad this run defense is. James Conner is due for a big week, in my opinion. Next up, Denver versus Indianapolis. This one was a tough one. Our AI model actually likes the Colts. And, the way they looked at home in week one, not, scoring on every single drive for the first time ever, they like Indianapolis to win a close one. I like Denver to win a close one. I think Denver's offense is due for somewhat of a bounce back as long as Bo Nix doesn't lay another stinker. I trust this defense to make enough plays. I think it's going to be a close one, like 23-20. But our AI model likes Indianapolis's balanced attack. And, I can't really blame them. Jonathan Taylor, Michael Pittman, Josh Downs, Daniel Jones can scramble. And that Colts defense really clamped Tua, forced him into some mistakes. Bo Nix made plenty of mistakes last week. So I can't really blame them here. So that is our third game we disagree on. Should be exciting to see how this one plays out. This is one of my most intriguing ones. Next up, Eagles at Chiefs, our Super Bowl rematch at Arrowhead. I like the Eagles. I think the rushing attack will be able to do enough. I think the passing attack will show better than what they did against Dallas. AJ Brown, hopefully Devontae Smith for fancy purposes, will be able to get going. But our model likes the Chiefs at home. And, even with the injuries to Xavier Worthy, they think Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes, maybe that run game with Pacheco gets going. In front of that home crowd, they're going to be determined. They just trust Kansas City to bounce back that defense. Chris Jones, George Karlaftis to be able to get after Hurts and make him a little bit uncomfortable. So this will be the fourth game we disagree on. I'm really intrigued to see how this one plays out. Obviously, a Super Bowl rematch, and I think Kansas City does not want to go into an 0-2 hole just with how stacked this AFC conference is and just their division alone with the Raiders, Chargers winning their games, and also the Broncos. Next up, the Sunday night game, my Minnesota Vikings host the Atlanta Falcons in the Michael Penix, JJ McCarthy 2024 NCAA championship rematch. The AI model likes my Vikings, and they just trust the Minnesota offense the way they looked at the end of the game to, be able to put up some points. Atlanta's defense really surprised me. I know Tampa Bay clutched up and got Baker Mayfield had 3 touchdowns, but those were not 3 easy touchdowns. They really had to work for it with a game-winning drive too, and Atlanta just got screwed by a missed kick. Can't really control that. That offense was able to move the ball at the end. They still got Bijan, Drake London expected to play. So that is a concern for me. Just what will the Falcons' weapons be able to do against this Minnesota secondary that's already very thin? Will Okudah be able to even play? Andrew Van Ginkel has a concussion. Will he be able to go because he's such a big part of that front seven? So I'll be interesting, but I trust Brian Flores to just do enough and Kevin O'Connell and J.J. McCarthy to scheme up a win. And then the 2 Monday night games, I took Tampa over Houston. I like C.J. Stroud. I love this Texans defense, but I just can't pick them the way this offense looks, the way C.J. Stroud had to call it the team. You never want to see that, although that's what a good leader does. RA model likes the Texans at home, and I think this game's very 50-50. My gut's telling me to go, my head's telling me to go Houston. The defense, the offense might be able to bounce back, but my heart is going Tampa, which is why I'm picking Tampa. But you never really pick with your heart, so that may come back to bite me. But RA model likes the Texans to win. They just think the QB advantage in this one. CJ Stroud, this Texans defense will be able to do enough just to overwhelm Baker, maybe into throwing 1 or 2 picks, which I could easily see happen. Baker's a risk taker, and this Houston defense may be able to overwhelm him. So it wouldn't totally shock me. I do think Houston probably will win this game, but my heart is betting Tampa, so I'll bet Tampa. But that'll be the 5th game we disagree on. And then the last game, the late night, Los Angeles versus was amazing. I think this defense is still pretty good, and our AI model also likes the Chargers to win a close one. Just the passing game advantage with the way Quinn Johnson looked. It was amazing to see in Brazil. Keenan Allen being that security blanket back home where he belongs because he just did not fit in with the Bears. Lad McConkey, maybe Amari Hampton will be able to get going. But I'm really also excited to see this Raiders offense. Geno Smith balled out. Brock Bowers should be able to go in this one. GNT, will he get more touches, be able to be more efficient as the season goes along? And how this Raiders defense that was able to hold New England to 13 points, but this is a different beast than the Chargers. Max Crosby, will this Raiders defense be able to just make plays? I'm excited. I also think it will be like a field goal, a touchdown game, but I just trust the QB play of the Chargers more. So with that being said, these are our AI model picks compared to mine. It did get a game edge on me last week, and we have 5 games different this week. One's being Houston, Tampa, where I like Tampa. The AI model likes Houston. Philadelphia at Kansas City, I like Philadelphia. Our AI model likes Kansas City at home. Denver versus Indianapolis, I like Denver just barely in this one. Our AI model likes Indianapolis. And then the last 2 were New England at Miami. I like New England for a little road upset. They like the Dolphins to bounce back at home. And San Fran versus New Orleans, despite the injuries, I just think San Fran's barely able to pull it out. Our AI model likes the Saints to get a win at home. And they flipped that once the Brock Purdy news became official. But with that being said, let us know your predictions for Thursday Night Football between Jay Daniels and Jordan Love, which should be an electric one. We'll be here to recap that, obviously, tomorrow. Who do you think wins? And give me your week 2 picks. What do you agree, disagree with? Do you agree with the AI model more or my predictions more? But as always, make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy this kind of content. Football season is here. Going to be bringing content day in and day out. But with that being said, as always, thank you for watching. Peace.